In today's session, we will be going deeper into some of the reporting tools as well as the RF framework, how it is being configured, and how the screens are being designed and all those things. As well as uh, after the end of the session, I will share a document with ZaranTech. The document, two documents in fact. One is called the RF cookbook, and the other one is setting up of your service. Okay, so what happens is that whenever we are using the RF framework, at the end of the day in the warehouse physically, they would be using the application in a separate device. They will not be using a laptop. They will not be using the SAP GUI. They'll be using it on a separate device. When we are using it on different devices, so it has the different screens that we see. So in the backend, they are called templates. And these templates need to be published. Published where? Published as a service in the web. So that when you are logging in, because when you'll be logging in the RF screen through a device, you'll be logging into a particular IP address, right? It will be like it's an HTTPS IP address that you'll be logging into through that device, which will take you directly to the login screen. Now, for that particular thing to be activated, a service needs to be activated, and this service needs to be. Within this service, there'll be multiple templates which need to be published as well. Now, the document that I will share with you contains the step-by-step procedure how you can do that. Now, in certain organizations, if you are creating your custom templates and your custom services, if you're using standard ones, then the functional is supposed to do this. If you're using custom applications, suppose custom screens are created, then the ABAPer who has built those custom screens is supposed to publish the screens as well. Okay, so therefore you might have seen that ABAPers who work on, it's not something very difficult, to be honest, but sometimes there would be requirements like EWM ABAPers. Now, what does that mean? So EWM ABAPers basically are experienced in all these things as well. Okay, so they would be experienced in creating screens, RF screens, creating the custom logical transaction flows as well. So what we will be today, we will not be creating any custom screens or anything like that, but I will show you where exactly we can do it. Okay, and as functional consultants, you need to provide the guidance to the ABAPers if anything Z is required in the screen, where exactly that needs to be put. The ABAPer, if the ABAPer is an EWM ABAPer, so that person would already know how to do it. And if not, then you have to do the guidance. Okay, so it depends. Also, we will today see how the EWM monitor is being constructed. If you want to construct custom screens or custom monitors based on user profiles, how to do it. We will create a couple of sample monitors and we will see how we can do that as well. Okay. And last but not the least, we'll also try to cover the graphical warehouse layout. Now, what the graphical warehouse layout is basically a graphical representation of the entire warehouse. Okay. Now, this is a huge amount of data that needs to be uploaded. So I would show you how to do it, but I would request if you guys can do it yourselves, it is much better. Again, it is something which is not widely used across projects. I have not seen many projects. I've just seen a couple of projects that I've worked so far using the graphical warehouse layout, and that too, it's not being used such extensively. But yes, it does give you a 2D representation. It's a 2D representation. It's not a 3D representation of the entire layout of your warehouse, all your storage bins and everything. Okay, so we will see a couple of storage bins. We'll do the mappings, necessary mappings and the configuration. And then we will see whether it pops up in our screen as well or not. So these are the three things that we'll try to cover today. So we will start off with the EWM monitor first. Okay, so we'll go inside the monitor transaction to understand it further. So we have been using this EWM monitor transaction since, I believe, last 3 sessions, and you guys have seen that this is basically providing us a cockpit overview of the warehouse. Now, what does a cockpit overview mean? You'll keep hearing this term cockpit. So so does it mean, so if you see, whenever you are boarding an aircraft, and you must have definitely seen, even if you have not gone inside the cockpit, but you must have definitely seen it in videos or in pictures or whatever. So everything can be controlled through the cockpit by the pilots, right? So similarly, using this EWM monitor, a warehouse supervisor or a warehouse user can see entire operations that are happening inside the warehouse, and can also perform certain tasks using this monitor. Okay. So on the left hand side, you see what these are called are the nodes. And there are nodes defined for different processes. So there is a node defined for outbound activities, inbound, physical inventory, and then within documents, if you open, then you've got again different classifications like physical inventory documents, warehouse order, warehouse task, handling units, all movements for product. That means if you want to trace a particular product, say for example, in a company like Coca-Cola, there are so many SKUs, and then you want to trace a particular SKU, the entire in and out movement for the product. So if you just push in, double click over here, and you put the product, and you can do filtration based on batch types as well, stock types as well. If you want to see the movements of that product within a particular area of the warehouse, that also can be filtered over here. And if you execute, then the system will show you the in and out movements of the entire product. Okay, so what are the different warehouse tasks which have happened for this product? So like that, similarly for value-added services, this is again another subtopic in EWM, which we'll be covering on a separate date. So value-added services relevant information will also, if there is a classification for that as well, then there is a classification for labor tasks. So this is used in terms of labor management. So that is again another subtopic in EWM. Then posting changes, stock transfers, inspections, which is related to quality management. Waves, again related to outbound processing, which we will be covering tomorrow. And then executed workloads and planned workloads. This is again related to labor management. Apart from that, if you close this subnode, you get stock and bin. So within stock and bin, you get the different kinds of stock currently present in your warehouse in terms of the physical stock, in terms of the available stock, in terms of storage bins. And you can, within the storage bin node also, you can find the stock separately over here. That is bin specific basically. And from all these different places, there are also action icons provided through which you can also, as I mentioned, do a lot of actions. You can create warehouse tasks. You can delete handling units. You can do posting changes. That means stock type to stock type transfer, which in turn would do a transfer from your S-log to S-log in ECC. So all these things you can control using this EWM warehouse monitor. So this warehouse monitor also gives you this, if you see the last node for tools. Now over here, you've got all these different sub nodes through which you can see the IDOC processing, the different IDOCs which will be coming in to bring in the customers, the materials, the vendors. If we are using a decentralized system, if something is stuck, shipments, if we have linked shipments to transportation units. So if the IDOCs are processed, if the IDOCs are in a block status, all those information you will see over here. And even queues, if there is any blocked queue, so you will be able to see the queues as well over here. So if you execute, say for example, so you can see all these different queues, and now all these queues are in a block status, as you can see, and you will also get the description why it has been blocked. So from here, say for example, if you want to go to the QRFC monitor. Now, what is the QRFC monitor? You have seen yesterday also, in yesterday's session also, we have used it extensively. So the QRFC monitor is something through which we can view the queues. So if you can click over here, it will directly navigate you to the QRFC monitor. So you see the EWM warehouse monitor, they have linked a lot of structures. They have created the object in such a way that you will be calling a lot of standard functions through this structure. Okay. Now, say for example, as a warehouse user, I want to see how many inbound deliveries are there and which are currently with a open goods receipt status. That means the goods receipt has not yet been completed. So what I would simply do, now I will just scroll down over here. Okay, so GR status I would put as 1 and I will execute. So one is not yet started. So that's why I have selected one. And you can see these are the inbound deliveries which are there for which the goods receipt has not yet been started. So you can, as I mentioned, you can use this to do a lot of activities and also to view, I mean, from a reporting perspective as well, you can use it as well. Okay. And you can also print out all the list of orders from here. So there are a lot of options from that perspective as well. And say, for example, you are viewing the warehouse orders and you want to print the warehouse orders, you can do that as well. So all these options are being provided within the warehouse monitor. Now, sometimes what happens, this warehouse monitor is being used by different users across the warehouse. Now, the view which you are getting, this is like an all-inclusive view. And this is something which is desirable only for the either the top executives or the super users working inside the warehouse, not for every user. Okay. So obviously you would want to restrict the usage of this monitor because it's a powerful tool. So you want the information which is available for the users in such a manner that only the useful information and the required information is available for that particular user or the user profile. Otherwise, it's not those information which is not required for them should not be made visible. Okay. So what can be done? Can we customize this? Yes, we can do customize it. Okay. So over here, if you see, now when you go inside the transaction/n/scwm/mon, then at that point in time, the screen comes up with this pop-up window where you enter the warehouse number and their monitor. Okay, so if you just do an F4 over here, you would see there are just two monitors which are there. That is the CR_EX, the Crystal Reports monitor, and the SAP monitor. So the SAP monitor contains all the nodes which are available. Now, if I want to customize and I just want to say, for example, I just want to show a physical inventory and documents node. Is that possible? And I want to omit all of these other nodes. Yes, that is possible. So what I need to do, I need to go into customizing. So I will go into Pro, SAP reference IMG, SCM Extended Warehouse Management, Extended Warehouse Management, Monitoring, Warehouse Management Monitor, Customize Monitor. Now over here, so you can see over here, the system has taken this as a new monitor. If you want to rename it as something else, you can do that as well. Okay. So if you want to suppose name something different, so I've just selected the white page and I have created this. But at the time of saving, the system will ask me for the monitor name change. If I want to do it, I can do that as well. So this is the standard SAP monitor, which has got all the nodes you can see over here on the left. And this is the new monitor, which is there, which I can construct, right? So in order to do that, as I mentioned, I just want this physical inventory. So what I will do, I will pull it over here and drag and drop it over here. Okay, so I've got the physical inventory node. And then say, for example, I want to also show the stock in bin. So I will just pull it over here. So it depends now. If I want to add it within the physical inventory node, I can do that as well. I mean, the moment you open physical inventory node, only then you will see stock in bin. Or else if I want to just put it on the same hierarchy, the system allows me to do that as well. So this is the new monitor. So I just have the physical inventory and stock in bin over here. So I will go to save it. So when I go to save it, you can see that it is giving me the option that is it across all warehouses? *** means that, or is it only for one warehouse? So I'll just do it for one warehouse as of now. And I would be putting in the monitor name. So I'll put it as Z-test. Okay. Test demo monitor. Okay, save it. This is a config. Perfect. So let's go and see and check it out whether it's available for our warehouse or not. So we go over here and the monitor options. So we can see Z-test. Perfect. So as you can see, you just have these nodes over here. Okay, the ones which we have added. So this is the way you can customize. And now the question that should come up in your mind is, how do we control this? So there are standard authorization objects in the backend.
So Ronnie, just one quick question. So since we reduced the number of folders, kind of a notes here, will it improve the performance kind of a thing?
No, it doesn't impact the performance, because at the end of the day, even if the nodes are there,
in the background, so same programs, function modules will be called, correct?
Yeah, I mean, even if the nodes are there, you will be only executing it doesn't allow you to multiple execution, right? So either I can view stock in bin, or either I can do physical inventory. I cannot run physical inventory on this upper screen. I cannot open storage bin in this screen. I can do that in another session, not in the same session, right? So therefore, even if there are multiple nodes, it doesn't improve from a performance perspective. But yes, if you are thinking, see, what happens is that sometimes there are certain clients that I've seen, they will be going for standard Fury applications on your tablets or on their devices. So if a forklift operator, say for example, has, I mean, you have a requirement that you want to show only limited number of folders from the EWM monitor to the forklift operator, because I mean, he does not need to go through each and everything detail which is over there. So from that perspective as well, these kind of customizations become important then. Okay, so your overall screen optimization also becomes much better when you look into that perspective. From that aspect, yes, it does help. And also from a, as I mentioned, from a roles and authorization perspective. So if there are like, so there are standard authorization objects, as I mentioned. So within that standard authorization object, you can also configure within the role. It's not something that the functional consultant would do, obviously. It will be by the governance team. If there is SAP GRC implemented, it will be the GRC team. If not, then the roles and authorization team for the respective client that you guys will be working in. So, but they will come back and ask you that how do we control this? So what you need to remember, that you can control it even at the warehouse number level. That means you can control whether the monitor is viewed only for the person for that particular warehouse. So you can restrict it at LG num. LG num is warehouse number. And also you can control it at monitor level. If you want to control which monitors the person can view, that also can be controlled through roles and authorization, standard EWM authorization objects. Okay, so select layout doesn't have any layout saved. Sorry, my bad. So you go to change layout and you can see all the columns over here. So if you find anything which shows the exact time of the stock, which I don't think it would be there, I don't think it's there actually. But you can try it out. But till now, so far, I've not yet seen having the exact that this is the stock run done. But if you do that spool generation, so at that particular point in time, because you have the recording of that background job run, right? So this was run at 12 p.m. suppose. I think that is the whole purpose, right? That is the objective I think that is the kind of scenario that you are looking at, right? That you want to know at this point in time, what is my stock? So more important from a stock perspective, I would say, see, the whole concept of EWM is that because you have got stocks at two levels, whether it's an embedded system, whether it is a decentralized system in EWM. So the stocks are always at two levels, one at the EWM level and the other one at the ECC level. Okay, so the ECC level, you view the stock at what level? You view the stock at plant and storage location level. In EWM, you view the stock exactly at the detail level, like storage type, storage bin, and all those things. These concepts are not there in ECC. Okay, but at one point in time, both the ECC as well as the EWM stock needs to be synced. That is utmost important. Otherwise, there's going to be an issue. Okay, so the EWM stock and the ECC stock at any point in time should be synced. And these are issues which are generally faced by most of the warehouses because of multiple reasons. Some of the queues will not be cleared. Whenever I'm performing goods receipt in EWM for any XYZ reason, if the queue is stuck in ECC and the goods receipt has not yet been posted, that means the material document 101 has not yet been posted in ECC. That means in ECC the stock has not yet been added, but in EWM the stock has been added. That means there is a difference. In EWM you have more stock, in ECC you have less stock. So in order to view that as well, and because you need to keep on monitoring that as well, what is the latest differences in stock? So what you can do, there is a standard transaction in EWM. It's called ERP stock check. So generally, this transaction is being run by warehouse supervisors or managers or shift in charges, whoever it is. So you can just run it on a fixed timely intervals. So as you can see, this is the transaction, SCWM/ERP underscore stock check. And over here, you can run it for the entire warehouse to see if there's any difference over here. So I'll just activate this checkbox, display differences only. And you can see there's a lot of difference. Obviously, this is a test server. So you would find a lot of queues not getting cleared. And so wherever you see, so this is but logical. So wherever you see the stock more in EWM and less in ECC or ERP, that means it should be related to stock which has come in or goods receipt. Okay, so that is a natural, way of, the natural logical thinking that we can apply over here. And if you've got more stock in ECC and less stock in EWM, that means there is a goods issue which has not yet been posted. Now that goods issue is not necessary, it's a customer dispatch. It can be related to scrapping as well. Sorry, because when you implement EWM, you will be using the scrapping functionality also through EWM. So when you do scrapping also, there's a goods issue movement which gets triggered. So the stock will be scrapped from EWM, but it has not yet been posted in ERP because of any XYZ reason. Then in that case, there'll be more stock in ECC, less stock in EWM. So multiple reasons can be there when we are doing posting changes, as I mentioned earlier, EWM. Then there are storage location to storage location transfers which get triggered in ECC. And what happens in turn, if those queues are stuck because of any XYZ reason, then what will happen is that in EWM, in one stock type, the stock will show more, and in ECC, in one storage location, the stock type will show lesser. So if you can see over here, you can from EWM itself, it will show you the stock at the plant and storage location level as well. In EWM, generally, as you have seen, nowhere we are using directly storage location. We are using the concept of availability group and stock type. But you can use, what you can view through this report is the stock at the plant and storage location level as well. And if you want to simply view the stock as well, you just remove this and you just execute this report. You can do that as well. You can do stock corrections as well using this report for the differences. But from all my experience, that little experience that I have in EWM, I would always recommend you, don't straight away, if you see a difference, just don't select this and then, you correct the stock. Please don't do that. Do a proper analysis. What are the missing queues? Try to identify the queues. And this should be the last resort of stock upload. Basically, what does is when you do the stock correction through this, say, for example, the stock is less in ECC, it will do an IDOC upload. ALE IDOC will be triggered to upload the stock, basically, in ECC. But that should be the last resort. We should try to identify the missing link, and then only we should go ahead for this particular approach. But as I mentioned, this should be the last resort. So again, going back to our monitor topic. So you guys have seen how we can configure the monitor and everything. Now, another important thing that I wanted to show you. Sometimes users will have requirements. Like say, for example, when you double click over here, you can see activity area, physical inventory, procedure, inventory document here, priority, reason, product. Now, the user might have a requirement that I want batch as well over here, not only the product. I'm just giving you an example, okay? So I want the batch filter also apparently over here to be added as a filter when I'm doing this selection. This can be a requirement. So in that case, how will we do it? So what happens is that you can see this particular, if you see over here, shrim shrim SAP LPI underscore count mon. Now, what exactly is this? This is actually a function module. This is a standard function module which is assigned to this node. Okay. So in case you want to create a new field over here, a new Z function module needs to be created copying this standard function module. And that Z function module needs to be assigned to this count overview node. Okay. Obviously, the function module we will not be creating. It will be created by unless there is a techno-functional consultant that can also be achieved. But in general, I mean, functional consultants won't be constructing the function module. They'll be just writing the FS to construct the function module, the new Z function module, right? So we'll go to SPRO once again. Warehouse Management Monitor. And over here, we'll go to, you can see first how the nodes are being defined. Okay. So these are the different nodes basically. So if you see this node category over here, so this is nothing but the node details which shows up. And then based on this, so there are different, you can see this is a node profile. And within this node profile, so what is this category? It's outbound. So within this particular node, you will be assigning it to the different node profiles. So let me just quickly try to open this up. So I'm not able to launch the node profile because of an issue in my, extremely sorry for that. So because of an issue in my keyboard, but I will get it activated for tomorrow's session. I will show it to you again. Okay. So until unless, because I wanted to show you that within the pop-up itself, it will show you the different the node that is currently assigned to it and how the hierarchy works. Okay, so that it's easier for you to understand how this entire assignment and category will work. But by keyboard, something has happened. I'm not able to launch my function key, so I have to activate the function keys. So you can see all these different nodes, right? So these nodes are nothing but actually the nodes which are there in the EWM monitor. So you see, we've got so many different nodes. So every node has a category. So this, if you see over here, and then from a sequencing perspective, you see there are sequences also maintained over here. So this sequence basically is nothing but the flow. So the flow of the screen basically. So once you open this node and then the next node, double click on that node, and then what happens? So that entire nodes are being fixed over here. So that sequencing is also being maintained over here. Since we have just copied and pasted existing nodes, we don't have to create all these things. But if we are creating Z nodes, in that case, we need to do the mapping and we need to make sure that the sequence is also properly maintained so that the screen also appears properly. Otherwise, it is going to get all, so you're going to get a short dump in the system. When the system is being executed, when you execute this particular, suppose I change this particular flow and do not maintain it correctly for physical inventory, then what will happen is that if I maintain an incorrect sequence, then when I execute the report, say for example, I check this node and I execute it, the system will start giving me a short dump. So you see over here, these are as I mentioned, there are different function modules which are assigned. Okay, so let me quickly check the function module for this one. Okay, so apparently I have to do a one-by-one selection. The selection is not working. But you can see over here, all these standard function modules are there. So as I mentioned, if you are creating a Z function module, so that function module needs to be assigned over here to the object class, and the object class in turn will be assigned to a node. Okay, so that is how it is going to work. If you are creating any changes in the screen in the EWM monitor. So this is the table for that same config node that we were looking at. So you will find all the relevant function modules over here. All the different function models which are there, you will find it over here. Okay, so I'm not able to open that shortcut node for where you can see against the higher node, lower node. You will see all that assignment actually within the EWM monitor itself. So every node that you see has got a hierarchy actually, based on which you can see this view. And that hierarchy is configurable in those configuration nodes that we see. And as I mentioned, like say, for example, in this screen itself, you want to change anything, you want to add anything. So that means it's a Z function module that needs to be updated or needs to be created, because the existing function module does not have that, doesn't have that field, basically, right? So as an input parameter, if I want to add something extra, so I cannot create it in the same standard function module. I need to add it in that function, in the existing function module, create a Z function module, copy the standard one, and then add that input parameter. So generally the requirements will be more or less standard data structures only. I mean, the customers, what I've seen is that they would be having those kind of requirements only. Like I want to add batch, I want to add stock type, I want to see HU type in this filter, or I want to see the PMR number, say for example, in this particular where it is not showing, I want to add it as a filter. So these kind of requirements generally come until and unless it's a completely Z field, which is not there within the standard SAP structure. So that can also be a requirement if it is added, and then that has also to be added over here. I mean, in these views. So that is how it works. So, but unless and until I open up the shortcut, I'll not be able to show you guys that. Yeah. So let me do that tomorrow, and then I will be able to show it to you guys. Okay. Even right now, my function keys are not working, so I have to press function and then F1, F2, F3 like this. Okay, so let us go back to the RF configuration now. So we go to SPRO. So over here, we go to SAP Extended Warehouse Management, Mobile Data Entry, Radio Frequency Framework, and then we will have to go to define steps in logical transaction. So define steps in logical transaction, again, is something which is basically so whatever we are performing in the SAP GUI also, we call it a transaction code, right? So in every transaction code, there are multiple steps that we are performing. So when you see the RF screen, let me open it up. Now let's say, for example, this screen, right? So if I want to see the hierarchy, so the shortcut that you need to push in on your keyboard is Control Shift plus F1. Okay. So then you will get this technical information over here. So this technical information is basically the different objects which have been assigned against each other for you to see the screen. Okay. So you see there's something at the application level that we define, and then there is a display profile. Now, why do we have this display profile? So, and the presentation profile, we have this because, as I mentioned earlier, different sets of users will be using this RF profile. So it can be warehouse supervisors, it can be warehouse managers, it can be operators, and people working across different departments. So you might want to restrict the screens as well, what they can see over here. And based on that, you will be defining different profiles. Okay. Also, you have an extra layer of security where you can restrict it in terms of roles and authorization. But SAP EWM RF gives you this extra additional flexibility, I would say, which you can use. Over here, you see these are the logical steps. Now, these logical transactions and steps, these are all standard. These are the standard ones. And you can see the screen sequence number is also maintained. So that means within this particular logical transaction, this is the first screen sequence. Okay. And this is the screen program that you see. And then the screen number that you see over here, 201, this is basically, as I had mentioned in the beginning of the call, if you remember, that the RF screen templates need to be published. So this is the RF screen number, basically, what you can see over here. So this screen that you see is screen number 201. Can this screen be changed as well? Yes, up to a certain extent, and then from then onwards, if we need to put some additional fields or something, then it will be obviously a Z screen, and that template also needs to be published again by the developer. So we can also publish it. It depends on what kind of access we have. So as I mentioned, I will share a document with you, which contains a step-by-step, because it's a huge configuration in itself in terms of setting up the ITS service. Because as I mentioned, this is used by the RF framework generally is being used on devices, external devices, and they will be calling this web service. So in order to call the web service, you need to activate the web service as well. So it has got a lot of steps. But just to give you guys an idea, the transaction that needs to be used is SICF. Okay. So over here, so you go inside, and there is in that guide itself, which I will share with you, there is a step-by-step where exactly you need to go, and then you need to identify your service, and within that service, you need to activate the service. Okay, so but this service activation needs to be done after the screen templates have already been published. And in order to publish the screen templates, you need to go into SEAT, and then you need to select the correct service over here. Okay, so there are different groups over here. So you need to select the correct internet service. And once you select the service, so you have to open up the templates will start opening up over here, the different HTML templates, and then you need to publish it one by one. Okay, so that is how it works. Okay, so you see over here, this publish option is there. So then that publishing needs to be done. But then again, this again depends on what kind of roles of certain clients, they will not be giving you this access, because this SEAT is a technical transaction used by ABAPers. So you might not have access to this decode. And they might say that you please give the instructions to your developers, and the developers will be doing the publishing on your behalf. Okay, because if there is any change in the screens, developers definitely will be involved in it. Okay, so let's go back over here. So and where were we in the screen? So if you see over here, we have got the logical transaction and the step. So let's go back to our configuration. So you see over here, we've got all the logical transactions. So let's see what is this RHDC. So receiving HU by delivery. And within this, the initial step. Okay, so it's RHDESL. And if you see, it is RHDESL would be, so if I go one step back, so the step is RHDESL, if you're following my cursor. So now within this, you have got your text. If you're maintaining text, are basically the descriptions that are coming up against each and every node, so that you have to maintain it against your presentation profile and in the different language that you want it to be represented. Okay, because in SAP, as you are aware, when you're logging in, you can select your language. And if you want your RF screens also to populate in the foreign language, so that for that, you need to maintain it over here. So apart from that, for this particular logical transaction, this is the logical transaction step flow. Okay, so over here, the function codes are being mentioned. And against the function codes, you can see function modules are also being assigned. So basically, after that, once you press enter, what happens next? So the next step is also maintain, and what is the processing mode, whether it is going to happen in the foreground or in the background, that detail is also being maintained over here. Then if there is any inter-transactional flow, so in generally, if you see in the standard transactions, few of the transactions it might be there, but mostly those inter-transactional flows are not there. But if it is there, you need to maintain it over here. That means if you want to link one step to another step, then you need to maintain the inter-transactional flow over here as well. So you can actually, when you are setting up your warehouse, I would, if you have time, so because setting all these things up will require time. So if you guys get time, then actually you can also use and set this thing up and see how it works, and how is it different from the standard without the inter-transactional flow. I mean, one without the inter-transactional flow, and one you can maintain for one transaction and inter-transactional flow entry and see how it works. But definitely it will take time. Then it comes to the validation profile. So if you want a validation basically to be added over here, you can apply all the validation profiles over here, and then you can see the steps, logical transaction, everything you can maintain over here. Okay, so for this particular transaction, it is not there, but it can be, if you want to add anything over here additional, you can maintain it over here in terms of the validation profile. So over here also, you can maintain for how the function keys are going to work against each and every step. So you can see that so F7 is back, F6 is clear, then enter is enter. So all these different, so there are descriptions given against each and every function code. You can just go through it and you can maintain it against the function keys available on your keyboard. So as I mentioned, why this is important is because not for someone who's using a laptop, but someone who's using a device. So the key, there are keys on the device, if you guys have seen, but generally the mobile devices that will be there, the keys will be very less. And operators also, I mean, from a age perspective also, there would be certain operators who are 40 plus, 50 plus, they would be having eyesight issues as well. So therefore, you want to make sure that the icons, the buttons, they just can just press the button and then just keep executing their job instead of typing or using the keyboard, obviously, because it is more time consuming and it is less efficient as well. And from that onwards, you can see over here the logical transaction flow is being maintained over here. The screen program, which we see over here, has been mapped. Okay, and the screen number against this particular transaction has also there. Okay, so you can see the screen number is 101 because we are in the initial screen of this particular transaction flow. Okay, so against this logical transaction, each and every step there, for each and every step there is a definition. So if you see over here, so all these steps are defined over here. So let's say, for example, this is RHDESL. So the step is receiving issue selection by delivery. So if you see the RF note, that is exactly what we are doing. We are entering in this particular step, we are going to enter the delivery number. So again, over here, you can define your own presentation profiles, as I mentioned. If you have different devices, you can maintain different presentation profiles based on that. And what happens is, because where does presentation profile come into the picture in terms of how you are designing your screen layout? So right now you see this is how the screen looks in RF. But when we are using a handheld device, we need to optimize the length, width, breadth, all the dimensions of the screen to ensure that it encapsulates the device's dimensions, right? We need to make sure that the entire screen is being captured and all the information is appearing in the screen. So if we have the same layout as in what is available in our laptop, it is not going to work. Some of the information will not be visible also. So for every presentation device, we need to ensure that the screens are designed in the most optimized manner in RF. Okay. So how to do that? So you can see over here, first of all, we need to maintain the presentation profiles separately. And then once you are done with that, so there is an RF screen manager, which you can see over here. So this is where basically we need to maintain those length, breadth, width, text size, and all those things we can maintain over here. Okay. If it's a completely Z screen, so you would hear that in EWM projects or in the current project also where you're working, you would see there might be Z screens which have been developed for Z functionalities. So in that case, you need to create presentation devices accordingly, and then within that presentation device, you need to create the screens. Right? So let's say, for example, over here, if I want to standard display profile and F1, let me, by the way, push down the shortcut for you guys, okay, to get the screen details. So over here, what is the logical transaction HDESI? Okay, so you can see over here, it takes some time. Again, this is a graphical screen painter. Generally, these changes are also done by evappers based on the inputs being provided by the functional team. Okay, so over here you can see this is how the discrete template will look like. And let me just, if I want to make any changes, I need to make the changes within the screen painter. Okay, so based on the, I mean, if I want to change the screen, if you can see the height, width, the push button length, width, all those things, I can do it over here. And I can display it and it will show me how it exactly looks, screen by screen. So you see over here, this is what the keys look like. So delivery, and then this is the input field, right? So if I increase or decrease the screen length, so this is the push. So the push button like the F1, F2, F3, all those things I can control. And this is the screen painter. And based on this, if what I maintain for the presentation device, accordingly it will appear on the screen. Another important thing is the RF menu manager. Okay. So what does this menu manager control? So this menu manager basically, if you see over here, on the right side, you have the RF menu. If you click on presentation text, it will show you all the, so basically these were the technical objects and this is the description of those technical objects. So what is this? System guided manual selection, inbound process, outbound process, internal processes. These are nothing but your standard nodes which appear when you enter into the RFUI transaction, right? So now if I want to suppose add a new node over here, can I do that? Yes, I can do that. So what I can do is simply over here, I need to click on change. So I won't save it. I'm just showing it to you. Okay. And then over here, a new menu, test menu. Okay. So I'll just select this. And then where do you want to add? Do you want to add it within the main menu? So that can also be done, right? So what you need to do, so over here you can see add entry as a sub node, add entry at same level. Okay, so if I click over here, select sub item, where did I create a sub node? Okay, something is going wrong. I'm just automatically getting kicked out of that particular config node. But it should not be like this. I should be able to add it over there in the node itself. No worries. Let us not spend time in, but I'll check what is the issue, because ideally what should happen is that if I'm adding a new object over here, a Z object, I should be able to add it over here in this particular node. Third time I will give it a try. Why am I not able to add the entry as a... So if I'm entering it as a sub node, that is when it is coming up. But if I'm entering it as a at the same hierarchy, it is not coming up. Okay. No worries. What I'll do is I will check this and I will see why it is not coming up. So there's something wrong because if you can see the presentation text is also not appearing now. So yes, so if you can see the node has come over here, Z test, but the presentation text is now deactivated. So I'll have to check why is this happening. So basically, it is not showing up all the nodes because what happened was that within the menu hierarchy itself, it has taken this particular node. So that is the issue. But no worries, I will set it up accordingly and I will make the changes. Okay, so initially also when I was doing it, I was getting kicked out of it. So I will set up the standard hierarchy and I will take it up accordingly, the menu hierarchy. So there is nothing over here because that Z test had no sub nodes within it. So therefore, there's nothing. If I keep pressing enter, I cannot see anything over here. So if I go back, mobile data entry, radio frequency framework, RF menu manager. Presentation text. So for example, guided message system guided O. And then over here, I will add it as a select this node. There's nothing over here. Okay, let me do it after this call. So don't worry about it. I will set up the entire menu structure accordingly. So this is basically what has happened is that when I had saved it, it had wiped off the standard menu tree and it had taken just that Z test with the blank one. Okay, so therefore you cannot see any sub nodes over there now. So what I will do after this session, I will create the all the standard nodes and you will be able to see the additional nodes. So the next screens, so what happens is that I will just quickly show it to you over here. My config screen go. Okay, so if I go to SAP Extended Warehouse Management, Mobile Data Entry, Radio Frequency Framework, RF Menu Manager, and this is where I had changed it, right? The presentation profile. So within this right now, there is no hierarchy, okay? So that's why it is showing up like this. But I have to do it in the change. I have to do it in the change mode. So I have to add entry as a sub node over here. Then everything comes up like this. Okay.
Yeah.
But still, what is happening is it is taking it as Z test. So I will be deleting this object. We don't need this Z test. We will just create the same one with the main one. So we don't need this additional Z test over here. So what I will do is I will just add entry as this one. So apparently it is kicking me out. So I hope that it doesn't kick me out again. Okay, so this logical transaction that we were checking is this one, I think. So before the water break, what you were asking me was how we can see this flow, right? In terms of the transaction flow that has happened. So what I have done is I have just assigned the screens back as well. So this is the main menu. So I will just add the text as well later tonight. Okay. Next, if you say for example, now we go to inbound process and then go to receiving of handling units, receive HU by delivery. Okay. So over here we just enter the delivery number and then we enter in. And even within now each and every enter whatever we are entering the data. So everything has got a logical transaction and a step assigned to it. So what was this logical transaction for the main step? RF main. So you see over here. Now, if you go inside, you will see all these things. See, the steps are assigned to it. So these steps, what does it? So the steps definition is over here. Okay. The processing mode, how you are processing it, the equivalent function module is also assigned to it. See. So what happens with basically once you are, what happens within this step? So you have to keep assigning function modules like that. So tomorrow, if the requirement, so why do we need to understand this as functional consultants is because tomorrow if a new screen requirements comes, how are you going to define that? So in order to understand that, you need to understand this structure, basically. Otherwise, you will not be able to, and as I mentioned, this whole assignment, if a Z screen is coming, it is actually done by the ABAPer, the EWM ABAPer who will be doing it based on the RF cookbook. So the cookbook that I will share with you, you guys can download it as well. It's available. You just need to type RF cookbook PDF. Okay. In case you're not able to identify, just let me know. So there are two things. One is the RF cookbook and the other one is the ITSM setup. EWM ITSM setup. Okay. So the ITSM setup document I will share with you, but the RF cookbook is very easily available. So please, I would request you if you guys can download it. So there, the step-by-step maintenance, how this is being maintained. Once you have a new screen, how you have to do it. All those things are given over here in that particular document. Okay, so it's a very detailed document. So just go through that RF cookbook, I would recommend. But in the meanwhile, just to understand that every screen has got this particular, as I mentioned, this logical transactional assignments against the steps. Okay, now when we go inside this, and so there is also something in terms of logical transaction. Yeah, so RF main is nothing. It's just like you just enter, save what is happening. So next step, it's going to be like that. Okay, so if you see over here RF log on, then the next step is RF log GN. So these are different steps which are being assigned. Okay, so based on that, the different function modules are assigned to it. So basically what happens is that if you see, for example, over here, now for this one, there is nothing for the RF main. Let me show you the another one which we were checking out, RF, this one, right? So see, if over here, you have got this screen program assigned to it with the screen number as well, right? So similarly, what happens is that whenever you are, now, if you see let us take the inbound delivery example only. Okay. So this one, this HU by delivery. So over here, if you see, this is the logical transaction. This is the step, RHDESI and RHDESL, right? So now once I enter over here, so this is what happens. So this is the result. Now this is the result because what happens is that it is bringing the vendor number and the description of the vendor and the number of HUs connected to the delivery. Now, how it is doing it? It is doing it based on because I have assigned a function module to this step. Understood? So if I go back one step, now again over here, let's do so RH. So you see there is this function module over here, which has been assigned. Okay, open this function module. So you see these are the different input parameters which are there. So I can put in the warehouse number, the delivery number, and based on that, if I execute this function module, it will generate me the details. So what I'm doing is that I'm assigning, this is a standard function module. So I'm assigning this function module to this particular step over here. This logical transaction, this is the step and this is the function module. And these are all background processing. You can see. Then again, the next one over here, another function module is this. which has been assigned to over here in this particular step. So these are all based on the different input parameters that I'm providing. If you see over here, after I enter this is the output which I get. I have to do nothing in this screen. So I am not entering anything over here. I'm not validating any verification. There's no verification field, nothing. It's just giving this a display information. Okay, so this is your delivery. This is the supplier from where it has come from, and these are the number of handling units which are associated with this delivery. So now this is done. So the step, which is the logical transaction, is this. The step is RHDLDT. Okay. So now after this, if I go inside, this is a different, again, if you see Control Shift F1, the logical transaction is this one. The step is different. Now, if you try to identify the linkage of this step with this logical transaction, so that is what I was checking in the table. So let me show you. It is linked to all RH logical transactions, RH star star. Okay, so you have this. If you see RH star 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 star, this one, the one which I've highlighted, that means any logical transaction starting with RH, it doesn't matter. It's RH, HDES, RH, HHDESL, RH, HHHI, it doesn't matter. So anything starting with RH star star, the logical flow will work after that accordingly. So if I now from here, if I go to this one, you can see these are the different logical transactions steps which are linked to this. Okay, so now say for example, logical transaction for this is RHDC. It doesn't filter because I have not pushed in additional these things. So if you see over here, all the it has been marked against RH star star as I mentioned, and it is so immaterial. So the moment you press this, so this particular step will get called. So over here the step is RHHUSL. So let me just try to put that RHHUSL. From here, so for us, the one that is getting activated is this one, selection of the handling unit on RF. So because over here, if you see on the screen, what we are pushing in as an input parameter is the handling unit, right? So for this delivery, it is already showing as XXXX because we've already used this delivery yesterday. So if you create a new delivery, you will not have obviously these things. And then this is working for RH star star, right? So as I mentioned, and it is working for this handling unit. So once we have a fresh delivery, then we can take it up ahead and you can see the next flow of screens as well. Okay, so I will have to create some data for you guys to show it to you, the step-by-step flow. This is where we can also, as I mentioned, as if you have created a Z function module. Now, say for example, in the Z function module, generally what happens is that if I have this function module, suppose, let's see what is there in this. So generally what happens is that now this one is not showing up the importing parameters in this particular function module. So over here, you can see you have these different information which is passed and based on which it will be doing an execution, right? So it will be doing the unloading. It will be, so this is the function module used for unloading, right? So the unloading part basically is, will be the part where you will see yesterday we saw the unloading checkbox was activated. So this function model is used there. Now, if I suppose want to have something additional over there, some additional step, say for example. So already this standard function model is existing. So what I will do, I will ask my developer to copy this. And within these input parameters, I will add that additional input parameter. And using that, then the output will be generated. Now that is if that's from some custom table, I need to add that relevant logic over there. But this is from where generally we'll be copying it from a standard function module only and then make modifications in the standard function module. Okay, if we are creating a Z function module, unless and until it's a completely different Z custom table, and but still in the backend there will be some standard functionalities which will be still called. It will just be an enhancement or an addition of those existing functionalities that I will be doing. So therefore, what I would do, I will ask my developer to copy and then create a Z1. And once the Z1 is created, that Z function module needs to be assigned to the step as well. Say, for example, I want it to be over here in the additional screen over here, suppose, inbound processes, handling units, receiving of HU by delivery. Now, if I want, suppose here only the delivery number is being provided, right? So if I want to say, for example, I want to also, over here itself, in this screen itself, I want to enter the product also. Let's say, for example, I want to scan delivery and I want to scan the product. I will generate a barcode for the product as well, and item-wise, I want to filter it out over here. That can also be done. Right? So I'm just giving an example. So in that case, this function module needs to be changed then. So when you change this function module, you need to assign it to this step. Change the function module and then assign it to this step. So generally, what we do, we don't change the function module assignment of a standard step. These are all standard steps provided by SAP. So what we'll do, we'll copy the step and create a Z step and then assign the function module to it and assign it to the logical transaction flow. So that is how it generally works. Now there's also something for verification, right? So now the verification profiles which we create is something which we can create. So you can see over here the verification profiles which are there. Like this is for source handling unit and destination bin, and this is for source handling source bin, quantity, destination handling unit, destination bin. So what it basically means is that at what levels are we doing the verification? So over here, YE0001, so NLPLA and VLENR. Okay, so so this is the validation object. So it is the NLPLA is the source bin. Sorry, yeah. So it should be, so NLPLA is not source HU. Okay, and so what happens is that NLPLA is the destination bin, sorry, my bad, and VLENR is the source HU. Okay, so these are the technical names of these objects basically. So if you go inside, there will be three fields over here. So you've got the destination bin, the handling unit number, the quantity, and then the VLPLA, the source bin. So if you see over here, like if you go back, so it is source bin, quantity, destination bin, and destination handling unit and destination bin. Okay, so NLPLA is destination, VLPLA is source, handling unit, and then the quantity. So these are the verification profiles basically, which you will be creating for the validation. And then warehouse specific verification determination. So this is again based on the warehouse number, then activity area, and what is the verification profile. So based on that, so that means for the different areas of the warehouse. Now, suppose for this particular area, I want some additional verifications. I can do that, and I can assign it to that particular activity area as well over here. And you can see the process category. So there are different process categories defined for different processes inside the warehouse: stock removal, put away, posting change, physical inventory, goods issue, goods receipt. So you can do the assignments over here as well and do it as per activity and activity. So you can assign this, and then you can also maintain the determination criteria on based on what it will be determined. So for example, for this warehouse, it will be based on the warehouse process category, activity area, and if it is not there, it will be based on the warehouse process category and the activity area, and if it's not there, it will be based on the warehouse process type. So the system will first go and check whether these three conditions are met. If not, it will go to this condition, and if not, it will go to this condition.